It has been another roller coaster week for watchers of these markets and of the US economy, with President Trump stoking up his trade war anew. On Thursday, he threatened to hit goods from Canada with a steep tariff of 35%, hot on the heels of a threatened 50% levy on Brazil. He fired off letters to more than 20 countries, spelling out what tariffs they would face if they don't strike new trade agreements by August the 1st now. But there was some good news from Wall Street, with tech stocks rallying. The AI chip designer NVIDIA becoming the world's first company valued at $4 trillion. Paul Donovan is chief economist of UBS Global Wealth. He joins us now from London. What do you make of what we have seen this past week? We've had equity markets hit record highs. They're somewhat off those highs now, amidst an uptick in rhetoric from Donald Trump, which must be confusing for investors, and the moving of a very definitive date on tariffs from mid this week, which you would have been watching out for until August the 1st. Pick apart what we've learned this week and what your view is going forward.
Well, let's start with the delay to August 1st. I mean, I think this was inevitable. It was, by any stretch of the imagination, unrealistic to do a large number of trade deals with a large number of countries in an extraordinarily complex global trading system in so short a space of time. Not sure adding an extra couple of weeks here and there is going to make a huge amount of difference, but, the date is now at least more flexible. As a consequence of this, though, there is an interesting possibility, which is that the tariffs that we're now going to be seeing, so not the 10% tax that consumers are already starting to pay, but the next wave of tariffs may not actually work their way through to the consumer in America until early next year. So what we may be seeing just by a few weeks' delay is it just pushes out that hit to consumer spending power into the start of next year. With regards to the general moves that we've been seeing in the markets, we're now in what I would call the retreat paradox. That is to say, markets believe that US President Trump will retreat from their more aggressive trade rhetoric, because, frankly, that's what Trump always does. At the same time, if markets say, well, Trump's going to retreat, let's rally, that then reduces the pressure on the president to retreat. So we're in a rather difficult situation. Markets are doing very well because they don't believe the president, which is giving the president the confidence to go around imposing ever more draconian taxes on US consumers.
Joining us right now is Natasha Sarin. She's president and co-founder of the Budget Lab at Yale. She also served as counselor to former Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Thanks for being here. It's good to see you, Natasha. Let's focus in. There's just been kind of a slew, if you will, of new tariffs threatened, promised, we could also say, in just the last, I would even say just 24 hours, really, that I wanted to walk through with you to try to wrap our mind around where are we with this trade war. First and foremost, what we heard now, he's targeting Canada again, threatening a 35% tariff on imports from Canada. This is in the midst of negotiations over their trade deal, just as Canada had promised to rescind a digital services tax that Trump had been railing against. So it seemed a concession. And then you have this. So is it clear to you, if this would go into effect now, what impact this new tariff would have?
Well, so we at the Budget Lab at Yale have been trying to, in real time, keep pace with all of the tariff announcements that are coming out from the administration. What I can tell you is, as of late last night, effective tariff rates were around 18%. That's the highest they've been since 1934. That would translate to increased costs on the goods that Americans consume on the order of about $2,300 a year. Now, just this morning, we're waking up to a new 35% tariff on Canada, and also potentially increases in the baseline tariff rates on all countries. Trump has floated maybe a 15% or a 20% baseline. And so what you're seeing here is moving towards escalating and increasing tariffs relative to where we were previously.
We need to understand that Trump does not listen to reason, and you can't negotiate with a bully. Regular Canadians, the Canadians watching this, the Canadians that might be your friends, your family, people that you know living across the border, maybe somebody you met on a vacation to Canada one time and you kept in touch. because that happens all the time. We get some nice people up here in Canada. I know it's a stereotype, but that one's kind of true. They're fighting back. We need our government to do more. And frankly, a lot of people on the left in Canada, in the NDP, have been sounding the alarm about this, and they haven't been listened to as much, including the great Charlie Angus. And I want you guys to check this out, because Charlie lays it out better than 99% of the people that have been talking.
They know this is not about arguing about the price of soybeans and tariffs on barley. They understand that this is a threat against our nation and our sovereignty. That Donald Trump and MAGA hate our country because as they slip into authoritarianism, we remain a democracy. As they target migrants and minorities, we continue to remain a country rooted in issues and visions of diversity and equity and inclusion. And they hate that. And they have never wavered once. In the 150 tariff countries that Trump has attacked, many times he's tacoed since, he's never gone after Russia, but he stayed steadfast in his attacks on Canada. Ordinary Canadians really understand the nature of the threat, but I think there's a large disconnect with the political class and the punditry. And it's very similar to how the United States failed to address the rise of Trump and MAGA with their mainstream media. If you follow our pundits, this is just another dull, quiet summer on the Rideau Canal. They write about whether or not Pierre Poilievre dropped 3 points in overnight polling, even though there's no election and no one cares. Or whether Mark Carney's cabinet reflects regional or gender diversity. What Canadians want to hear is the language and the framework for dealing with a nation that's beside us, that's slipping into fascism and threat. I've been thinking a lot about Bob Woodward's book, War, where he gives the inside scoop of the analysis that was starting to come in the intelligence community in the United States about the transition of Putin's rising bellicose rhetoric against Ukraine to actually taking the step towards war. At the time, the analysis that they were getting that Putin was serious was just considered insane. It was loony. Who would do such a thing? They shared the intelligence with the Brits. The Brits wouldn't believe it. They took the intelligence to President Zelensky. Even he was hugely skeptical. It made no sense for Putin to launch a war. I believe right now we're in a situation where we need to start talking about what Trump may do. The difference between Putin and Trump, obviously, is that Putin is a very focused global chess player, whereas Trump is hugely erratic, and he responds in panic to domestic crises. Am I saying that he's going to attack Canada? No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that 6 or 8 months ago, such concepts or thoughts would have been insane. Now we don't know, and we need to prepare. So what should Canada do? Well, number one, our Prime Minister, Mark Carney, he needs to stop with the elbows down, nice guy approach. He needs to stand up to the bully. He needs to, right away, reimpose the digital services tax as a message that you cannot ask us to give up unilaterally and then turn around and kick us. I think of the response that Prime Minister Trudeau took the last time Trump threatened us with crushing tariffs, and Prime Minister Trudeau said we'd go back dollar for dollar, pound for pound. That made Trump taco. Is it a risky economic response? Damn right. Will it hurt? Of course it will. But right now we're facing the slow and steady bleed off of our national economy while Trump does victory laps around us. This has to hurt the Americans. Trump is dealing with a country with an unstable economy, with a population that's beginning to question him. If we don't stand up now, we are going to lose our ability to stand up later. And that, of course, is one of the principal lessons you need to learn from dealing with fascism. As for ordinary Canadians, keep it up. I am so inspired every day by your determination, your clear-sighted understanding of what we're facing. So keep the boycott strong. We will keep getting through this. But I want to...
Justin, what is going on here? I mean, and I guess I'll let Angela weigh in on the story they're told. I mean, the truth is that he's making fools of his supporters. He's making fools of his base of voters. And again, it's the biggest political betrayal in my lifetime that he stood in front of groceries in the heat at Bedminster and said he'd make all the food items behind him cheaper. Nothing will be cheaper if he carries on with the tariffs and or the economic instability?
Nicole, I just think you're too harsh on this bloke.
Go ahead, Justin, you go first. Yeah.
Sorry, mate. I just think you're being too harsh on this bloke. I was a 17-year-old boy once and prom was coming up and I told all my mates that the phone was ringing off the hook, and it's only you, and because I trust you, I feel safe saying this, Nicole, but the truth was I was huddled all alone in my room next to the phone, hoping it would eventually ring, and no one really liked me. And you know, I think it's probably because of my personality. I fear there might be some parallels with the current moment. So, look, he promised 90 deals in 90 days. We got 2 frameworks and an extension out to 114 days. People don't seem so worried right now. They're betting on taco. Trump always chickens out. And Nicole, I know you love the acronyms. I worry instead that it's the opposite. This is a bloke who loves tariffs, and he got talked out of it last time. And this time, like the 17-year-old me who eventually did pick up the phone and ask someone to prom, this time he might actually have the courage of his convictions. And so I think we're looking instead at the taquito, that Trump's aggressive commerce quest will unleash intense tariff orders. And so, look, we've seen this movie before, Liberation Day. It caused everyone to fear a recession was just around the corner. So given that it failed once, now in summer reruns, we're coming back and we're trying it again.
Yeah, Angela, what bet is he making? That people won't notice that things are more expensive or there aren't any deals, or that he doesn't care about Scott Bessent's credibility?
He definitely doesn't care about Scott Bessent's credibility. I think he's banking. I mean, that's for sure. But he's banking on something that has been a key part of his sort of public communications, whether it be in private life or in public life, for the longest time. Something he wrote in his book, where he talks about the fact that the way that he markets.
He's right. You don't negotiate with a bully for a brief thing like. During the election, Carney was very much elbows up. Like, you know, and I don't think people meant that he was going to pick unnecessary fights with Trump, but that neither was he going to be deferential. And then once he won the election and the votes were counted and he got everyone's votes, including a lot of progressives who voted strategically for him to stop the conservatives, because the conservatives were going to do what Carney is doing now, he started being deferential to Trump. Excusing his Iran bombings, excusing Israel's crimes, which are, you know, the Trump-Netanyahu alliance, being very friendly to both those men, justifying Trump's tariffs in other ways, saying that, oh, yes, we do have a problem at our border, justifying Trump's lies about Canada, saying that, you know, illegal material is flowing into the United States from Canada, when, if anything, it's the opposite. It's illegal substances, illegal firearms flow into Canada from the United States. They have the border problem, not us. And Carney didn't have the guts to really say that. And also canceling our digital services tax to make Trump happy, and then days later this happens. Carney needs to realize that he is getting played by Trump while Canadians are the ones fighting back.